Welcome, friends, to chapter 3 of the book of Ruth. We are clipping right along, and if you missed Monday night's Bible study, we're going to try right now to compress an hour's worth of study into 15 minutes. So bear with me. The race is on. I'm going to try to fill you in case you wanted to be here and weren't able to be here, or I know we have some listeners who are listening from long distance and aren't able to be here in person. So here we go. Chapter 3 in the book of Ruth, verse 1. Ruth and Naomi are having a conversation here. In verse 1, Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, shall I not seek security for you, that it may be well with you?" So Naomi and Ruth are still kind of in a quandary. They've been harvesting, they've been actually gleaning in the field. Ruth has, for her and her mother-in-law, and there's not a whole lot of options open to them. Single women back in that day and age had to resort to slavery, prostitution, begging, all kinds of things, and so they're very, very uncertain about their future at this point. And verse 2 goes on, says, "Now Boaz, whose young women you were with," because Boaz had asked her to work, had asked Ruth to stay with the young women in the field. Naomi says, "Is he not our relative? In fact, he is winnowing barley tonight." And so Naomi's gears are clicking and she's coming up with an idea here. And so she tells Ruth, "Wash yourself, anoint yourself, apply some perfume, and put on your best garment and go down to the threshing floor." So Naomi is expressing here an understanding that she has in terms of what men like. All right, she's wanting her to get all gussied up and smell good and go in, and she continues and gives her instructions here. And so then she says in verse 4, "Then it shall be when he lies down that you shall notice the place where he lies." So kind of watch him, pay attention to where he's going here. And then she says, you go in there and uncover his feet and lie down, and he will tell you what to do. Well, when we read that, the first time I read that, it sounded like kind of a provocative gesture. The way we look at it here in our culture, that is kind of a strange thing to do. But back then, that was not the way it was considered. In that culture, in that day and age, it was an act of total submission. So she tells her to go and submit yourself before this man. And as we go on, and I'm trying to hurry through the verses here, in verse 8, she says, "Now it happened at midnight that the man was startled." So Ruth had done what Naomi had asked her to do. And it says that when he turned himself over, there was a woman lying at his feet. And, you just have to chuckle when you read that, but that's what the Word of God says. And then Boaz said, "Who are you?" Because he knew there was someone in there, and he was guarding against criminals that were going to come and rob the grain. And so he's thinking, is this a robber, or what is this here? You can imagine how he would have been startled. And Ruth answers, and she says, "I am Ruth, your maidservant." So Ruth identifies herself as a servant. How much more submissive could she be? And she says, "Take your maidservant under your wing." So what that is basically, ladies, is a proposal of marriage. She is asking Boaz if he would take her as his wife. Boaz said, "Blessed are you of the Lord, my daughter." So the fact that he calls her daughter means that she is considerably younger than he is. And we don't know what Ruth looks like. The Bible doesn't tell us, but I would imagine she's probably a very attractive young woman. And he's thinking, I am old enough to be her dad. And so, he had absolutely no inclinations toward romance at all. He was an upright, honorable man, has been this entire time. Um, and he says, For you have shown more kindness at the end than at the beginning, in that you did not go after young men. So he's thinking, why would she come to me and not someone a lot younger? So I can imagine he's probably in a little bit of, well, he's just wondering what is going on here. And verse 11 says, he continues and he says, And now, my daughter, do not fear. He's putting her mind at ease. I will do for you all that you request, for all the people of my town know that you are a virtuous woman. So Ruth's reputation has gone before her. And, it's not like they were total strangers here. Ruth and Boaz had worked together for several weeks in the harvest and had come to know each other quite well. They had observed each other, they had seen each other and how they conduct themselves in groups of people. They weren't considered to be a couple, they were just two people who knew each other and had never, quote, dated as we consider dating to be. And there's a lot of wisdom in that. When we're in a courtship or a dating situation, we always put our best foot forward. And many a woman and man have been deceived by thinking that someone is a good person and a very nice person, only to find out that they're not. And a really good way that we can see through that is to spend a lot of time, as Boaz and Ruth did, with other people. Watch how they treat other people, because how they treat other people is going to be how they're going to treat you. And so if you're a single woman listening to this, you can read this story and learn a whole lot by the way Ruth and Boaz interacted with each other. My mom used to tell me, watch how the guy you're dating treats his mother, because how he treats his mother is how he's going to treat you years down the road. Well, fortunately, my husband treated his mother very well, and I did pay attention to that, and I knew from the way he honored her that he was a great man, a man of God, and that man has not disappointed me, continually treats me just as well and just as lovingly as he did his mom when we were dating. And so anyway, they recognized, he said, the people in the town, that she was a virtuous woman. And so he says, because he's such an honorable man, Boaz says, now it is true that I am a close relative. I can be your kinsman redeemer. However, there is a relative that's closer than I. And he instructs her to stay the night, and goes on at the end of verse 13. It says that he tells Ruth, if he does not want to perform the duty of kinsman redeemer for you, then I will be happy to do that. And so then he instructs her to just continue to lie down until morning, and he doesn't want to send her out into the night. And so he's still, even at that point, just caring for her and being kind and gentle with her. And verse 15 then says that I like this too, he measured 6 ephahs of barley and laid it on her. He wanted to give her something, and so he gave her barley. He didn't have chocolates, he didn't have a bouquet of flowers, so the gift he gave was barley, and that's the kind of gift my husband would give too. Well, Ruth runs home and tells Naomi all that has happened, and you can imagine the thrill in Naomi's heart of knowing that Boaz has said, you're going to be cared for. whether it's through himself or through someone else. And it's really neat, too, that when Boaz gave Ruth the barley, he also said, give this to your mother-in-law. So not only is he thinking of Ruth, but he's thinking of Naomi as well. What a good man. And then Ruth says, or I'm sorry, Naomi said to Ruth, sit still, my daughter, until you know how the matter will turn out, for the man will not rest until he has concluded the matter of this day. And so, you can just imagine the anxiety that Ruth must be feeling right now, because she knows that, first of all, she knows that she and her mother-in-law are going to be cared for, which is really a good thing. But she's also thinking, oh, I'm going to be married to somebody. I don't know who. Is it going to be Boaz, or is it going to be this other person? And so that's where we ended on Monday night. And I hope you'll join us next Monday night. Hope you'll be able to come in person. But if you're not, we will finish this off together next week here online. So thank you so much for joining us, and I pray that you'll all be richly blessed. All right, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.